The gravel crunched under the tires like bones breaking, and Noah slammed on the brakes just before the old wooden gate, his heart pounding as if it knew what waited beyond. Dust swirled in the rearview mirror, choking the late afternoon sun, and for a split second, he considered flooring it right back to Austin, leaving the ghosts of Ridge Valley buried where they belonged. But then the screen door of the farmhouse creaked open, and there stood Hunter, taller than memory, his silhouette framed by the porch light that hadn't changed since they were kids, and Noah's throat tightened with a whisper he couldn't swallow. Home wasn't a place anymore. It was that steady gaze locking onto his, pulling him under like the Pedernales River after a storm. Noah killed the engine and sat there, fingers gripping the wheel until his knuckles bleached white, the air thick with the scent of dry earth and mesquite drifting through the cracked window. It had been 3 years since Head last crossed this threshold, 3 years of city lights blurring the edges of his regrets. But now, with the engine ticking cool in the silence, every mile Head fled felt like a lie unraveling. Head driven straight through from Austin after the call from their mother 2 days ago, her voice fragile over the line, saying Dad was fading faster than the cotton fields in a drought. Cancer, the kind that doesn't announce itself until it's too late. Noah had packed a duffel in the dark of his apartment, ignoring the half-empty bottles on the counter and the echo of Jameis' last words, "You're too much, Noah," too needy ringing in his ears like a bad country song. He stepped out, boots hitting the ground with a thud that echoed his pulse, and the farm unfolded before him like a faded photograph come to life. The barn loomed red and weathered to the left, its tin roof patched with mismatched sheets from storms past, and beyond it, the pastures stretched toward the horizon, dotted with longhorns that lowed softly in the twilight. Ridge Valley hadn't changed. It was still that stubborn stretch of Texas hill country where time moved slow as molasses, where Sundays meant church and secrets stayed buried under layers of good manners and grilled brisket. Noah slung his bag over his shoulder, the weight of it pulling at the ache in his chest, and started up the dirt path, each step kicking up puffs of red dust that clung to his jeans like accusations. Hunter hadn't moved from the porch, arms crossed over his broad chest. The faded blue of his chambray shirt stretched tight across shoulders honed by years of mending fences and baling hay. At 28, he looked every bit the man the land had carved him into, tall, solid, with sun-bleached hair curling at the nape of his neck and eyes the color of storm clouds over the plains. Had always been the anchor, the one who patched Noah's scraped knees and chased off the neighborhood bullies with a single glare. But now, seeing him there, Noah felt the old pull, that magnetic draw Head spent years rationalizing away as brotherly love. Hunter uncrossed his arms and descended the steps, his boots thudding soft on the wood, and when he reached Noah, he didn't say a word, just enveloped him in a hug that smelled of sweat and leather, strong arms wrapping around like they could hold back the world. "You made it," Hunter murmured finally, pulling back but keeping a hand on Noah's shoulder, his thumb brushing absently over the collarbone exposed by the V of Noah's t-shirt. Noah nodded, throat too tight for words, and let Hunter take the duffel, slinging it over his own shoulder like it weighed nothing. Inside, the house was a time capsule of warm oak floors and walls lined with family photos yellowed at the edges. Noah and Hunter as boys, gap-toothed grins under wide-brimmed hats, their father stern in the background with a pitchfork propped like a scepter. Their mother, Ellie, emerged from the kitchen, her apron dusted with flour, eyes red-rimmed but smile steady. "My boy," she said, pulling Noah into a flowery embrace, and he held on a beat too long, inhaling the scent of yeast and lavender that hadn't changed since he was 10. Dinner was quiet, the clink of forks on plates the only sound breaking the hum of crickets outside. Their father, Harlan, sat at the head of the table, thinner than Noah remembered, his once broad frame swallowed by the flannel shirt, but his grip on the water glass was firm, eyes sharp as they flicked between his sons. "Glad you're here, son," he rasped, voice gravelly from the treatments, and Noah managed a nod, forcing down bites of pot roast that tasted like childhood and guilt. Hunter sat across from him, knee brushing Noah's under the table, accidental at first, then lingering, a silent reassurance that sent a jolt up Noah's spine he didn't dare acknowledge. Afterward, with Ellie clearing plates and Harlan retreating to the den for his evening news, Hunter led Noah out to the porch swing, the chains creaking under their weight as they settled side by side. The sky was bruising purple, stars pricking through like hesitant promises, and Noah leaned back, letting the motion rock him into a rhythm that eased the knot in his gut. "So, city boy," Hunter drawled, voice low and teasing, "what's chasing you back to the sticks this time?" Noah chuckled, but it came out hollow, and before he could deflect, the words spilled out unbidden. "James left. Said I was too. Everything. Too open, too emotional. Like loving hard is a goddamn crime." Hunter's jaw tightened, a muscle ticking under the stubble, and he shifted closer, the heat of his body cutting through the cooling air. "James a fool," he said flatly, no room for argument, and Noah met his gaze, those gray eyes holding steady, unflinching. "You deserve someone who sees you, Noah. All of you." The words hung there, heavy with something unspoken, and Noah felt his pulse stutter, the swing creaking like a warning. He wanted to lean in, to bridge the gap that had always existed between them brothers, blood, boundaries, but instead, he looked away, toward the dark silhouette of the barn, where memories of summer nights spent hiding from chores flickered like fireflies. They talked late into the night, voices dropping to whispers as the house settled around them. Hunter sharing stories of the farm, the drought that nearly broke them last year, the way Harlan had taught him to read the clouds for rain that never came. Noah listened, the cadence of Hunter's Texas drawl wrapping around him like a blanket, easing the raw edges of his heartbreak. But beneath it all simmered that undercurrent, the way Hunter's laugh rumbled deep in his chest, the casual brush of fingers when passing a beer from the cooler wedged between them. By the time they stood to head inside, Noah's skin felt too tight, every nerve attuned to the man beside him, and as Hunter clapped a hand on his back goodnight, the touch lingered electric, promising storms Noah wasn't sure he could weather. The next morning dawned sticky with humidity, the sun already baking the earth by 7. Noah woke to the sound of coffee percolating and the low murmur of voices from the kitchen, pulling on jeans and a worn Henley before padding down the hall. Ellie was at the stove, flipping pancakes, her silver-streaked hair pinned back, while Harlan nursed a mug at the table, newspaper spread like a shield. Hunter was already out back. Noah knew from the empty chair and the mud-caked boots by the door, and a pang of something wistful hit him. He used to trail after his brother like a shadow, learning the farm one chore at a time. Breakfast was brisk, Ellie pressing a plate into Noah's hands with a mother's intuition for unspoken hurts. And soon he was out the door, the screen slapping shut behind him. The air hummed with cicadas, thick and insistent, and Noah found Hunter by the corral, saddling a chestnut mare named Ruby, her coat gleaming under the saddle soap. "Need a hand?" Noah asked, leaning on the fence, and Hunter glanced up, sweat already beading on his brow, a grin splitting his face. "Thought you'd sleep till noon, city slicker. Grab the bridle over there." They worked in sync, an old rhythm resurfacing like muscle memory, Noah holding Ruby steady while Hunter cinched the girth, their shoulders brushing in the confined space of the stall. The horse nickered softly, nosing at Noah's pocket for the apple head brought from the kitchen, and Hunter laughed, that full-bodied sound that always made Noah's chest ache with fondness. "You still spoil her rotten," he said, shaking his head, but his eyes were soft, tracing Noah's profile with an intensity that made the air thicken. By midday, they were riding the fence line, the sun a relentless hammer overhead, dust devils swirling in the distance like restless spirits. Noah hadn't ridden in years, his thighs burning against the saddle, but the motion was meditative, the creak of leather and thud of hooves lulling him into a trance. Hunter rode ahead, his posture easy in the saddle, checking posts for rot with a practiced eye, calling back instructions over his shoulder. Up here, the world felt vast and unforgiving, the horizon a flat line unbroken by skyscrapers or traffic, and Noah let his mind wander to the what-ifs the life had built in Austin, the gallery job that paid just enough to keep the lights on, the parade of lovers who came and went like seasons. They stopped at the old oak by the creek for lunch, tethering the horses and spreading a blanket under its sprawling branches, the shade a mercy against the heat. Hunter unpacked sandwiches from his saddlebag, turkey and cheddar on thick bread, with pickles on the side, and they ate in companionable silence, the trickle of water over stones the only soundtrack. Noah stretched out, propping on an elbow, watching a hawk while lazy circles above. "Remember when we'd sneak out here after supper?" he asked, voice soft with nostalgia. "Build forts out of driftwood and pretend we were cowboys running from the law." Hunter chuckled, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. "Yeah, and you'd always be the one getting us caught, hollering like a banshee when a snake slithered by." Noah grinned, the memory sharp and sweet, but it faded into something heavier as Hunter's expression turned serious. "You okay, Noah? Really? About James, about everything?" The question hung there, vulnerable, and Noah felt exposed, like Hunter could see straight through to the hollow parts head hidden away. "I'm trying," he admitted, tracing patterns in the dirt with a stick. "It's just, being back here, it stirs up all the old stuff. The way things were before I left. Before I figured out who I was." Hunter nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the creek, reflections dancing in his eyes. "I get it. Farms like this, they don't bend easy. But you always had that fire, Noah. Chasing dreams in the city. Makes me proud." The words landed soft, but they carried weight, and Noah's breath caught, the space between them shrinking as Hunter reached over, squeezing his knee, a gesture meant to comfort, but it ignited something deeper, a spark that had smoldered for years. They rode back as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in strokes of orange and pink, and by the time they unsaddled in the barn, twilight had settled like a hush. Noah's muscles screamed, but it was a good ache, grounding, and he lingered in the dim light of the tack room, oiling the saddle while Hunter forked hay into the stalls. The air was heavy with the scent of horses and earth, intimate in its closeness, and when Hunter straightened, wiping sweat from his forehead, their eyes met across the shadowed space. For a moment, neither moved, the world narrowing to the rise and fall of breaths, the unspoken pull that tugged at Noah's core. Then Hunter broke it, clapping Noah on the shoulder with a forced lightness. "Shower up, little brother. Mama's got cobbler waiting." Noah nodded, swallowing hard, and followed him out into the cooling night, the stars emerging one by one, witnesses to the quiet unraveling inside him. The days blurred into a rhythm of sweat and soil, Noah falling into the farm's unyielding pulse like a man half-drowned grasping for shore. Mornings started with the rooster shattering the dawn, coffee black as tar gulped down on the porch while Ellie portioned out chores with her quiet efficiency. Noah took to the fields with Hunter, repairing irrigation lines snaked through the rows of sorghum that whispered in the wind like secrets, their hands blackened with grease by noon. The work was brutal, sun-scorching skin already tender from city softness, but in the ache of blistered palms and the satisfaction of a mended gait, Noah found a fragile peace, the kind that mends cracks without erasing scars. Harlan's decline shadowed everything, a specter in the high-backed chair by the window where heads sit for hours, staring out at the land that had defined him. Had been a rancher through and through, born in the same room Noah and Hunter had entered the world, his hands calloused from decades of wrangling steers and negotiating with buyers who drove hard bargains. Now those hands trembled as he gripped the armrest, and his coughs rattled through the house like thunder in the distance. Noah would sit with him in the afternoons, reading aloud from the local paper stories of county fairs and high school football victories while Harlan nodded, eyes distant, occasionally muttering about the price of feed or the neighbor who fenced off the creek access. One evening, as the sky bled crimson over the hills, Harlan called Noah into the den, his voice a croak that brooked no delay. The room smelled of pipe tobacco long since abandoned, bookshelves sagging under volumes of westerns and almanacs. "Sit, boy," Harlan said, gesturing to the footstool, and Noah obeyed, knees bumping the ottoman as he settled. His father's gaze was piercing, unclouded by pain meds, and Noah braced for the lecture head half expected since arriving, the one about pulling his weight, about cities being no place for a man with roots this deep. Instead, Harlan leaned forward, veins like rivers on the back of his hand. "Your brother's carrying too much, Noah." The farm, me, your mama. He's strong, but even oaks bend in the wind. You see that? Noah swallowed, nodding, the truth of it twisting like a knife. Hunter had always been the steady one, the heir apparent who stayed when Noah fled to Austin at 18, chasing art school scholarships and the anonymity of urban sprawl. Head sent money when he could, postcards from gallery openings splashed with color. But guilt had festered, a slow poison that made every letter home feel like a betrayal. I see it, Dad. I'm here now, to help. Harlan's laugh was a wheeze, dry as autumn leaves. Help? Boy, you're a artist, not a cowboy. But maybe that's what he needs, someone to remind him there's more than this dirt. He paused, eyes softening in a way Noah hadn't seen since childhood fishing trips. And you find what you're looking for out there? Love or whatever passes for it. The question blindsided him, Harlan's bluntness cutting through the veil, and Noah felt heat creep up his neck, memories of James flooding back the late nights tangled in sheets, the mornings of coffee and quiet confessions, ending in a slammed door and a heart carved hollow. Tried, he said softly. Didn't stick. Harlan grunted, leaning back, the chair creaking in protest. Love ain't easy. Takes roots like this place. But don't let it chain you. His father reached out then, clasping Noah's forearm with surprising strength, the grip a bridge across years of silence. I'm proud of you, son, for trying. The words landed like rain on parched ground, unexpected and nourishing, and Noah blinked hard against the sting in his eyes, murmuring a thanks before excusing himself, the weight of that pride settling warm in his chest. Outside, the night air was velvet, stars scattered like spilled salt across the dome. Hunter was on the porch, nursing a beer, his long legs stretched out, boots propped on the railing. He handed Noah one from the cooler without a word, condensation slick against his palm, and they clinked bottles in the dark, the fizz a small rebellion against the day's grind. Rough talk with the old man? Hunter asked after a sip, his profile sharp against the glow from the kitchen window. Noah shrugged, sinking into the swing beside him. He wants me to stay. Help you. Hunter's laugh was low, rueful. Yeah, well, he wants a lot of things. Miracle crops, rain in July. But you got your life, Noah. That gallery gig, the paintings that make folks feel something. Don't let this place swallow you whole. The concern in his voice was a tether, pulling Noah closer, and he studied his brother's face, the faint lines etched by sun and worry, the curve of his mouth that could shift from smirk to solace in a breath. What about you? Noah pressed, voice barely above the cricket's chorus. You ever think about leaving? Seeing what's out there? Hunter stared into his bottle, twisting the label to shreds. Used to. Back when we were kids, dreaming of rodeos in Cheyenne or gigs in Nashville. But this is home. Dad's legacy, Mom's heart. And you, knowing you were out there, making it, that was enough. The confession hung intimate, laced with sacrifice, and Noah's throat tightened, the beer turning bitter on his tongue. They fell into stories then, the kind that bridged gaps, laughter bubbling over shared mischief, like the time they dammed the creek with stolen fence posts and flooded the south pasture, earning a week of extra chores. Hunter's voice wove through the night, rich and resonant, drawing Noah in until the world narrowed to the sway of the swing and the warmth of shoulders touching. But as the stories faded, silence bloomed, heavy with the unsaid, and Noah felt it again, that magnetic hum, the way Hunter's knee pressed steady against his, an anchor in the drift. The farm demanded more the next day, a busted pump in the north well leaving them ankle-deep in mud by dawn. Noah cursed as he wrenched at the rusted bolt, water spraying cold and forceful, soaking his shirt to transparency. Hunter hauled on the chain from the other side, muscles straining under his tank top, veins corded like rivers on a map. Together they muscled the housing open, revealing the clogged impeller, and for a moment victory tasted sweet amid the grime. Good work, partner, Hunter said, clapping mud from his hands, his grin boyish and unguarded. They broke for lunch in the bed of Hunter's truck, parked under a lone pecan tree, tailgate down with sandwiches and thermoses of sweet tea. The shade dappled their skin, a brief respite, and Noah peeled off his shirt, wringing it out before draping it over the cooler. The air kissed his damp skin, raising gooseflesh, and he caught Hunter glancing, eyes lingering a fraction too long on the trail of water tracing his collarbone. Heat unrelated to the sun flushed Noah's cheeks, and he busied himself with the food, biting into the crusty bread to ground himself. "You look good out here," Hunter said quietly, gaze fixed on the horizon. "Stronger, like the city didn't take it all out of you." Noah's heart stuttered, the compliment laced with something deeper, and he met Hunter's eyes, finding mirrors of his own turmoil, their hunger veiled as affection, boundaries blurring in the haze of dust and desire. "Thanks," he murmured, voice rough. "Feels right being back. With you." The words escaped unbidden, hanging vulnerable, and Hunter's breath hitched, his hand twitching as if to reach out. But he pulled back, capping his thermos with deliberate care. "We should head in before Ma worries." Noah nodded, the moment fracturing like glass underfoot, shards of what could be glinting sharp. That night, sleep evaded Noah, the ceiling fan whirring lazy circles above his bed, sheets tangled from restless turns. Moonlight slanted through the blinds, casting bars across the floor, and he rose, padding barefoot to the kitchen for water. The house breathed around him, creaks and sighs of settling wood, but a flicker of light from the back door drew him outside. Hunter was there, silhouetted on the steps, a cigarette glowing between his fingers, a habit head picked up in secret, away from Harlan's disapproval. "Couldn't sleep?" Noah asked, settling beside him, the concrete cool under his thighs. Hunter exhaled smoke toward the stars, the tendrils curling ethereal. "Nightmares. Dad's getting worse. Feels like we're racing the Reaper." Vulnerability cracked his voice, and Noah's chest ached, instinct urging him closer. He bumped Hunter's shoulder gently. "You're not alone in this. I'm here." Hunter's head turned, eyes dark pools in the low light, and for a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then he stubbed out the cigarette, turning fully to face Noah, hand rising to cup the nape of his neck, thumb stroking the sensitive skin there. "I know," he whispered, and the touch was fire, searing through defenses, pulling Noah under. Their foreheads touched, breaths mingling, the line between brothers and something more dissolving in the humid night, until Hunter's lips brushed his temple, a ghost of a kiss that shattered Noah's world. The kiss lingered like a bruise, tender and insistent, blooming in Noah's mind through the haze of dawn chores. Head pulled away that night on the steps, mumbling excuses about the cold, fleeing to his room with pulse thundering, but the imprint of Hunter's lips on his skin burned hotter than any regret. Sleep came fitful, dreams tangled with memories, boyhood wrestles turning intimate, the farm a labyrinth of hidden glances and half-spoken truths. By morning, resolve had hardened. He couldn't face it, couldn't name the storm brewing between them, so he threw himself into the day's demands, hammer swinging at loose boards on the chicken coop until his arms trembled. Hunter moved like nothing had shifted, his banter easy as he tossed feed to the clucking hens. But Noah caught the flickers, the way his eyes followed a beat too long, the casual touches that sparked like live wires. Breakfast was a minefield, Ellie chattering about the church potluck while Harlan picked at his eggs, oblivious to the undercurrent rippling beneath the table. Noah's knee jerked when Hunter's boot nudged his, accidental or not, and he excused himself early, claiming a need to check the mailbox down the drive. The road was a ribbon of cracked asphalt flanked by wild mustard blooming yellow defiant, and Noah walked it slow, gravel biting through his soles, letting the isolation unravel his thoughts. Had always known, on some buried level, that his love for Hunter transcended blood, a boy's adoration twisting into man's desire amid the isolation of adolescence. Coming out in Austin had been a revelation, rainbows and hookups that affirmed his queerness. But Hunter had remained the unspoken epicenter, a forbidden sun around which Noah orbited. James had been a distraction, a safe harbor of shared identities. But even in passion, Noah had chased shadows of gray eyes and calloused hands. Back at the house, the phone rang shrill from the kitchen, Ellie answering with her bright hello that faltered into concern. Noah hovered in the doorway as she hung up, face pale. "It's Pastor Hale. The potluck's off, Aunt Ruth's taken a turn. And he asked after you, Noah. Said he'd heard you were back." The name landed like a stone in still water, ripples of unease spreading. Aunt Ruth, Harlan's sister, had been the family's moral compass. Her Bible study groups a weekly ritual laced with veiled judgments. Pastor Hale presided over them, his sermons on family values often skirting too close to condemnation for Noah's comfort. He'd come out to the family 2 years prior, a halting phone call from his apartment where He'd braced for disownment. Ellie had cried, Harlan grunted something about prayer, but Hunter had driven the 4 hours that night, showing up with takeout and a six-pack, pulling Noah into a hug that said everything words couldn't. "It's you, little brother. That's all that matters." But Aunt Ruth's whispers had poisoned the well since, her visits laced with scripture about wandering sheep, and Pastor Hale's concern now felt like a summons. Hunter found him later by the barn, sharpening tools on the whetstone, the rhythmic scrape a meditation against the chaos in his head. "Heard about the call," Hunter said, leaning against a post, arms crossed. "You going?" Noah set the blade down, wiping his hands on a rag, the metallic tang clinging to his skin. "Don't know. Feels like walking into a lion's den." Hunter's jaw clenched, a storm cloud passing over his features. "Then we skip it. Tell Ma you're under the weather." The protectiveness was a balm, but it twisted the knife deeper, reminding Noah of the chasm they teetered on. "It's not just that. It's us. Last night." Hunter's eyes darkened, stepping closer, the space between them charged. "Noah, it wasn't. I didn't mean to cross that line. But damn it, I've been fighting this for years. Since you left, every letter, every call it chipped away at me. You're in my blood more than brother." The confession ripped free, raw and unfiltered, and Noah's world tilted, breath seizing as Hunter closed the gap, hands framing his face, thumbs tracing jawlines with reverence. Their kiss was inevitable, a collision born of suppressed tempests, lips crashing tentative then fierce, tongues tasting of salt and longing. Noah's hands fisted in Hunter's shirt, pulling him closer, the barn wall rough against his back as desire ignited, bodies aligning in a dance as old as the land. Hunter's groan vibrated through him, hands roaming possessive over hips and spine, mapping territory long claimed in dreams. It was salvation and sin intertwined, the farm's isolation a cocoon where taboos dissolved in the heat of truth. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, reality seeping back like cold water. "We can't," Noah whispered, even as his body protested. "Not here, not like this." Hunter's nod was pained, stepping back, chest heaving. "I know. But God help me, I don't want to stop." The vulnerability cracked him open, and Noah reached out, fingers intertwining a promise amid the peril. The week wore on, their secret a live thing pulsing between them, stolen glances over dinner, brushes of fingers passing tools that lingered electric. Harlan noticed nothing, his focus inward, but Ellie's eyes sharpened, catching the shift in the air during evening card games, her smile tight as she dealt hands of rummy. Noah buried himself in sketches, charcoal smudging his fingers as he captured the farm's essence, the curve of a hill's silhouette. Hunter's profile etched in shadow, but the lines always veered intimate, bodies entwined in margins he tore out and burned. Then came the letter, slipped under the door like a serpent's tongue, postmarked from Austin. Noah recognized Jameis' scrawl immediately, the envelope crisp against the worn wood. He tore it open in the privacy of his room, heart hammering, words blurring through a haze of anger and ache. "Had heard you were back in Ridge Valley. Thought we'd talk. I was wrong to leave like that. Come to the diner on Main Saturday, 2 p.m. The audacity burned, Jameis' charm always a velvet glove over steel, and Noah crumpled it, but doubt wormed in what if closure was the key to untangling this mess with Hunter? He didn't tell Hunter, the omission a small betrayal, but Saturday found him in the truck, dust clouding behind as he drove the 20 minutes to town. Main Street was a throwback, feed stores and a single stoplight. The diner a chrome relic with red vinyl booths and coffee that could strip paint. James waited in a corner booth, looking every bit the urban transplant in slim chinos and a button-down. His dark hair artfully tousled, smile flashing white as Noah approached. "You came," James said, standing for a half-hug that felt obligatory. Noah slid into the seat, ordering black coffee to steady his nerves. "Yeah, make it quick." James' eyes roamed, assessing, and Noah hated the familiarity, the way it stirred old comforts amid fresh wounds. "I messed up, Noah. Seeing you with your family pics online. It hit me. You're real grounded. I need that." The plea was sincere, laced with the vulnerability that had hooked Noah once, but now it rang hollow against the depth head tasted with Hunter. Before he could respond, the door chimed, and Hunter strode in, face thunderous, scanning until his gaze locked on them. Noah's stomach dropped. Head mentioned the diner run to Ellie that morning, casual as checking supplies, but Hunter's presence screamed intuition, protectiveness honed sharp. He crossed the room in strides, sliding into the booth beside Noah, thigh pressing solid against his, a claim staked silent. James blinked, smile faltering. "And you are?" "Hunter, Noah's brother," Hunter said, voice even but eyes like flint. "Heard you had some unfinished business." James' laugh was forced, glancing between them. "Brother. Huh? Small world." But the air crackled, tension coiling, and Noah felt trapped, the booth's confines a pressure cooker. "Talk's over," Noah said flatly, tossing bills on the table. "We're done, James. For good." He stood, Hunter rising with him, and as they exited into the blinding sun, James' voice trailed, "After you sure about that?" But Noah didn't look back, Hunter's hand grazing his lower back a subtle anchor as they reached the truck. "You didn't have to come," Noah said once they were rolling, dust billowing. Hunter gripped the wheel tighter, saw the letter in the trash, figured he'd try to reel you back. Noah's chest tightened at the admission, the trust implicit. "I'm sorry for not telling you." Hunter's glance was soft, hand reaching to squeeze his knee. "Just don't shut me out. We're in this together, whatever this is." That night, under a sky bloated with thunderheads, the storm broke, fitting mirror to the one inside. Rain lashed the windows as they sat on the porch, wrapped in a shared quilt against the chill. Ellie's pie cooling forgotten on the sill. Lightning forked, illuminating Hunter's face in stark relief, and Noah turned to him, words spilling like the downpour. "I love you, not like before, like everything." Hunter's breath caught, eyes searching. Then he pulled Noah close, lips claiming in a kiss that drowned doubts, hands urgent as they slipped under shirts, skin to skin electric. They moved to Hunter's room, door clicking shut like a vow, the bed a sanctuary of tangled limbs and whispered names. Lovers now, boundaries shattered. Noah arched under Hunter's touch, gasps swallowed in the dark, release a catharsis that left them boneless, hearts sinking in the afterglow. But as sleep tugged, doubt whispered, what of the world outside? The family walls closing in? Dawn crept in gray and sodden, rain pattering a staccato on the roof as Noah stirred in the unfamiliar tangle of Hunter's sheets, body marked with the night's evidence, faint bruises on hips, lips swollen from devotion. Panic flickered first, sharp as shattered glass reality intruding with its judgments, but Hunter's arm tightened around his waist, murmuring sleep-thick nonsense that grounded him. They lay there, breath sinking, the world held at bay by the thin barrier of walls. But when Ellie called up about breakfast, Noah slipped away, dressing in haste, the guilt a sour twist in his gut. The kitchen was domestic normalcy. Ellie at the stove scrambling eggs, Harlan shuffling in with his cane, newspaper tucked under arm. Noah poured coffee with hands that trembled slightly, avoiding Hunter's eyes across the room where he leaned against the counter, pouring syrup with casual grace. The air hummed with unspoken electricity, every glance a spark, and Noah excused himself to the porch, gulping air laced with petrichor, the farm emerging slick and renewed from the storm. Hunter joined him minutes later, 2 mugs steaming in hand. "Black, 2 sugars," he said, handing one over, fingers brushing deliberate. Noah sipped, the burn a welcome distraction. "What now?" he asked, voice low, the question a precipice. Hunter leaned on the railing, gaze on the puddles mirroring clouds. "We take it day by day. But I ain't letting you go, Noah. Not after last night." The certainty was a lifeline, and Noah nodded, leaning into him, shoulders touching solid. The day unfolded in fractured intimacy chores interspersed with stolen moments, a hand on the small of back while forking hay, lips brushing in the shadowed alcove of the tool shed, quick and desperate. Noah's sketches evolved, lines bolder, capturing Hunter's form in repose, the arch of his back under moonlight, but he hid them deeper, the farm's eyes everywhere. Harlan rallied that afternoon, insisting on a walk to the barn, Noah and Hunter flanking him like sentinels. His steps labored but determined. The air was crisp, ozone lingering, and as they paused by the corral, Harlan turned to them, eyes keen. "You boys remind me of my brother and me, back when we were young bucks," he said, voice steady. "Fought like hell, loved like fire. Family ain't just blood, it's the ones who stand with you in the dark." The words pierced, layered with unwitting wisdom, and Noah swallowed hard, Hunter's hand squeezing his elbow unseen. But shadows lengthened with Aunt Ruth's arrival unannounced, her Buick crunching gravel mid-afternoon, trunk laden with casseroles and judgment. She swept in like a haboob, hugging Ellie tight, cooing over Harlan before her gaze landed on Noah, sharpening to pins. "Noah, darlin', been too long. Pastor Hale sends his love. And prayers." The emphasis curled like smoke, and Noah forced a smile, murmuring thanks as he helped unload, her chatter a barrage on community gossip laced with scripture. Dinner was a trial, Ruth at the table regaling with tales of Bible study triumphs, her fork stabbing potatoes like punctuation. Hunter sat rigid, responses clipped, while Noah picked at his plate, the food ash on his tongue. When Ruth turned to him, eyes gleaming, "So, Noah, any special someone in that big city?" The room stilled, Ellie glancing anxious, Harlan pausing mid-bite. Noah met her stare, pulse roaring. "Not anymore. Focusing on family now." Ruth's smile thinned. "Wise. The Lord's plan for men is clear companionship in purity. Legacy in the home." Hunter's fork clattered, drawing eyes, and he cleared his throat. "Excuse me, gotta check the gate." Noah followed seconds later, pretext of helping, escaping to the cooling dusk where Hunter paced by the truck, fists clenched. "She's poison," he growled, and Noah pulled him close, arms wrapping fierce. "Let her talk. She's not us." Their kiss was defiance, hungry against the encroaching night, but Ruth's voice carried from the porch, calling them back, the spell broken. Sleep brought no refuge, Noah tossing to dreams of exposure crowds in the town square, Ruth's finger pointing accusatory, Harlan turning away. He woke sweating, Hunter's side empty, and padded downstairs to find him at the kitchen table, head in hands, a half-empty whiskey bottle beside. "Bad night?" Noah asked, sliding into the chair, hand covering Hunter's. "The end," Hunter whispered. "Doc's called. Weeks, maybe." Noah's world narrowed, grief crashing, and he pulled Hunter up, leading him to the couch where they curled together, tears silent on cheeks, bodies seeking solace in the quiet hours. Morning brought resolve, Ellie enlisting them for the farmer's market in town, a distraction amid the vendors hawking jams and handmade soaps under striped awnings. The air buzzed with chatter, locals nodding greetings, and Noah lost himself in the bustle, haggling over heirloom tomatoes while Hunter bartered for fence wire. But joy fractured when Pastor Hale appeared, clerical collar crisp, hand extended in fellowship. "Noah, good to see you, Hale." And Hunter, always a pillar. His eyes lingered on Noah, probing. "Ruth mentioned you're pondering your path." The church doors open, son. For guidance. Noah's skin crawled. The offer a trap baited with salvation. Appreciate it, but am good. Hale's smile didn't reach his eyes. Pride goeth before a fall, boy. Remember that. The drive home was tense, Hunter's knuckles white on the wheel, Noah's sketches forgotten in the glove box. They unloaded in silence. The produce a bounty turned burdensome, until Ellie called them to the porch, her face drawn. Ruth staying the night. Roads flooded. Noah's stomach knotted. The house suddenly claustrophobic. Dinner dragged. Ruth dominating with anecdotes of wayward souls redeemed. Her glances at Noah laced with pity. When she retired, the relief was palpable. But sleep evaded. Noah slipping to the barn where Hunter waited, lantern light casting golden halos. They made love slow and deliberate on a bed of hay, whispers of forever amid gasps, reclaiming agency in the loft's seclusion. But betrayal brewed unseen. The next day, while Noah napped off exhaustion, Hunter took a call in the den, voice low. Hale, he said later, face ashen. He knows. About us. Saw us at the market, put 2 and 2. Threatens to tell Dad the whole damn town unless we repent. Noah's blood iced. The farm's sanctuary crumbling. How? Doesn't matter. We face it. Together. But doubt seated, Jameis led her a specter. And in a moment of fracture, Noah drove to Austin that afternoon, pretext of supplies, but seeking escape. The city swallowed him, neon blurring tears, and he texted James on impulse, meeting at a dive bar where shots burned away resolve. James was all empathy, arm around shoulders, words soothing. You deserve better than that backwater drama. Come back to us. The temptation clawed, normalcy a siren, and Noah wavered, kissing James in the alley shadows, regret immediate as bile. He returned at midnight, truck idling before cutting engine, guilt a shroud. Hunter waited on the porch, eyes hollow. Where were you? Truth choked, Noah lied smooth. Errands ran long. Hunter's nod was weary, but the seed of distrust took root. Their touches tentative, the storm gathering force. Harlan's health plummeted days later. Ambulance lights strobing the night. Hospital in San Antonio a sterile limbo of beeps and fluorescent hum. They rotated vigils. Ellie dozing in vinyl chairs. Noah and Hunter pacing halls scented with antiseptic. In a quiet alcove, hands clasped unseen, Hunter confessed, I can't lose him. Or you. Noah vowed stay, but the lie festered. Jameis texts buzzing insistent. Discharge brought Harlan home frail. Hospice whispers in corners, and Ruth descended fully, her presence a vigil of veiled barbs. One evening, as thunder rumbled distant, she cornered Noah in the kitchen. I know your sin, boy. Unnatural. Repent or ruin your brother. The ultimatum shattered. Noah fleeing to the fields where Hunter found him, collapsing into embrace. Tell me everything, Hunter urged, and the dam broke. Jameis betrayal confessed. The kiss a momentary madness. Hunter's face crumpled, pain raw. Why didn't you trust me? The wound gaped, and Noah wept, their love fracturing under the weight of secrets. The argument echoed through the barn like gunfire, words sharp as barbed wire, slicing deep into the fragile weave of their bond. Hunter paced the hay-strewn floor, lantern swinging shadows wild across his face, while Noah stood rooted, arms wrapped tight around ribs as if to hold himself intact. You kissed him? After everything? Hunter's voice cracked, betrayal etching lines deeper than the sun's work, and Noah flinched, the truth a poison head swallowed alone too long. It was a mistake. Panic. I was scared, Hunter. Of Ruth, of Hale, of losing Dad and this us. Noah's plea hung ragged, but Hunter halted, eyes stormy. Scared? Or running? Like always when it gets real. The accusation landed true, echoing Noah's flight to Austin years back, and shame burned hot, tears carving tracks through dust on his cheeks. They collapsed against a stall then, exhaustion claiming victory, foreheads touching in truce. I'm sorry, Noah whispered, fingers threading Hunter's hair, the silken strands a lifeline. Hunter's sigh was bone-deep, arms encircling slow. Me too. For pushing. But we can't keep secrets. Not if we're gonna survive this. The pact sealed with a kiss soft as absolution. They returned to the house hand in hand unseen, the night a conspirator in their fragility. Harlan's final days blurred into a vigil of hushed tones and morphine drips, the farmhouse a husk echoing with Ellie's quiet sobs. Noah took the night shift, reading aloud from dog-eared Lewis L'Amour novels, Harlan's favorites, his father's hand lax in his, breaths shallowing like receding tides. Stories of rugged heroes and untamed frontiers filled the room, a legacy of resilience. And in the pauses, Harlan stirred once, eyes fluttering open to fix on Noah. You're good, son. To me. To him. Don't let go. The words were a rasp, but clear, and Noah froze. Heart seizing, did he know? But Harlan's gaze drifted to the door where Hunter hovered, a nod passing silent. Then peace settled, his chest stilling at dawn, the sun rising indifferent over the ridge. The funeral was a county affair, church pews packed with neighbors in starched collars. Pastor Hale's eulogy, a tapestry of Harlan's virtues laced with calls to faith. Ruth sat ramrod, handkerchief dabbing, eyes dry as bone, her glances at Noah accusatory arrows. Hunter stood tall beside the casket, eulogizing with voice steady, recounting tales of Harlan's quiet strength, the way he'd teach roping with patience unending, or stand firm in droughts that broke lesser men. Noah listened from the front row, Ellie's hand clutched in his, pride swelling amid grief, seeing the man Hunter had become forged in that same fire. Burial followed under a sky vast and blue, dirt clotting soft on pine, and the reception at the house swelled with pies and condolences, voices murmuring prayers like incantations. Noah moved through it numb, accepting hugs that squeezed too tight, until Hale cornered him by the lilac bush, Bible tucked under arm like a weapon. Tragic loss, but perhaps a sign, Noah, to realign. His eyes flicked to Hunter across the yard, laughing polite with cousins, and ice slithered Noah's spine. Back off, Pastor. My family's none of your concern. Hale's smile was serpentine. Oh, but it is. Sins of the father. Or brother. The threat lingered as he walked away, and Noah's hands shook, seeking Hunter in the crowd. They stole away to the creek that evening, the wake thinning, Ellie shooing guests with gracious fatigue. The water ran clear over smooth stones, willows draping like mourners' veils, and they sat on the bank, skipping pebbles into the current. Hunter's grief cracked open then, shoulders shaking silent, and Noah held him, rocking gentle, tears mingling with the river's song. He was our rock, Hunter choked, and Noah nodded, throat tight. He'll always be, but we're still here. Intimacy bloomed renewed in the hollowed space, touches reverent as they made love by lantern light in Hunter's room, bodies mapping solace in slow exploration. Whispers of I love you wove through gasps, a bulwark against the void, and in afterglow, plans murmured of futures beyond the farm's tether, perhaps selling acreage. Noah's art sustaining them in a coastal town where judgments washed away with tides. But Ruth struck first, her letter arriving crisp in the mail, addressed to Ellie with copies for all. Words seared like brands. Abomination in our midst. Noah's perversion tainting Hunter, defiling Harlan's memory. Repent or be shunned. Ellie read it aloud in the kitchen, voice quavering, face ashen as paper. Is it true? She asked, eyes pleading on her son's. Hunter surged forward, snatching the pages, crumpling them fierce. Lies. From a bitter woman who lost her sway. But Noah saw the fracture, Ellie's faith a fragile thing, and doubt clouded her gaze. The confrontation came at dusk, Ruth arriving furious, Bible in hand, Hale trailing like a disciple. The porch became arena, voices rising over the cicadas' dirge. You've poisoned them, Ruth spat at Noah, finger jabbing. Unholy desires dragging my nephew to hell. Hunter stepped between, voice thunder. Enough. Love ain't your domain. It's mine. And Noah's. The declaration boomed. Stunning silence. Ellie's gasp sharp. Ruth recoiled, Hale murmuring scripture. But Ellie moved then, slow as revelation, placing a hand on Hunter's arm. Love? Her question was whisper, eyes searching, and Hunter nodded, chin lifted defiant. Yeah, ma. Him. Always has been. Tears welled, but not condemnation. Ellie's face softened, grief and grace mingling. Oh, my boys. Harlan knew, didn't he? A whisper at the end. The admission broke them. Hugs fierce amid Ruth's sputtering outrage. Hale retreating with muttered warnings of damnation. Ruth left that night, tires spinning gravel in fury, her exile self-inflicted, the family cleaved clean. Ellie pulled them close after, kitchen light warm, pie slice generous. We're Harrisons, she said firm. We bend but don't break. Questions came gentle over tea. How long? Why hidden? And answers flowed honest, catharsis in confession. By midnight, acceptance settled, tentative as new growth but real. Freedom tasted sharp the next weeks, chores lighter without shadows. Noah's sketches displayed proud on fridge, Ellie's pride in each stroke. They planned openly now, Hunter scouting real estate in Corpus Christi. Visions of a cottage by the bay, Noah's gallery shows funding dreams. But betrayal lingered in echoes. Jameis' final text, blocked but haunting, a reminder of frailties past. One afternoon, as they mended the east fence under a sky heavy with promise, Hunter's horse spooked, rearing sudden, hoof catching his thigh in a gash deep and bloody. Noah's world slowed, panic clawing as he eased Hunter down, shirt torn to staunch the flow, crimson soaking through. Hospital in town stitched him tight, but infection bloomed swift, fever raging that night, delirium twisting Hunter's words. In the haze he thrashed, calling Noah's name like a prayer, confessions spilling of fears buried the farm's chain. Love deemed wrong until it wasn't. Noah held vigil, cool cloths on brow, Ellie's soup steaming untouched, and as fever broke at dawn, clarity returned, Hunter's hand squeezing weak but sure. Don't leave me, he murmured, and Noah kissed his knuckles, vow etched deep, never. Recovery was slow, Hunter hobbling on crutches, Noah his shadow, feeding him bites of roast, laughter bubbling over spilled gravy. The incident forged them tighter, vulnerabilities bared, and in quiet evenings, they dreamed aloud of horizons new, the farm a chapter closing gentle. Yet climax brewed in a call from Austin. Jameis' voice on Ellie's line, borrowed phone in hand, pleading one last meet. Closure, he claimed, but Noah heard the hook, and against Hunter's caution, he went, diner neutral ground, heart armored. James waited slick, eyes hungry. I miss you. The city needs your fire. Noah leaned forward, voice steel. No, you were a detour. Hunter, he's home. The rejection landed final, James crumpling, and Noah walked out reborn, wind at his back. The drive back from the diner unspooled like a film reel in reverse, Ridge Valley's dusty roads giving way to the farm's familiar gate. Noah's grip loose on the wheel for the first time in months, as if shedding Jameis' shadow had lightened the load. The sun hung low, gilding the sorghum heads in amber, and he pulled up to the house with a resolve humming steady in his veins. Hunter waited on the porch, crutches propped aside, his bandaged legs stretched out, a beer sweating in hand. One look at Noah's face, and he stood, wincing but smiling crooked. Done? Done? Noah confirmed, crossing the yard in strides, pulling Hunter into a kiss that tasted of relief and rye, the world fading to the creak of porch boards under their weight. Ellie's voice called from inside, supper in 10, but they lingered, foreheads touching, breaths sinking like a duet long rehearsed. No more ghosts, Noah murmured, and Hunter nodded, hand cupping his jaw. Just us. Forward. Supper was a ritual of normalcy reclaimed. Ellie heaping plates with chicken-fried steak and creamed spinach, her stories of market gossip weaving levity through the grief's undercurrent. Harlan's absence echoed in the empty chair, but photos on the mantel caught the light, his stern smile a benevolent watch. Conversation meandered to plans, Ellie's eyes brightening at mentions of Corpus, her offer to sell parcels of land a gift wrapped in practicality. "You boys build something true," she said, fork pausing midair. "That's what your daddy would want." Nights deepened into intimacy unhurried. Hunter's recovery a canvas for tenderness, Noah tracing scars with lips, eliciting shivers and sighs, their bodies a language of forgiveness. In the loft, under rafters etched with boyhood initials, they made love with the windows open to stars, crickets a chorus to their symphony, vulnerability the sweetest aphrodisiac. Afterward, tangled in quilts, Hunter spoke of fears once chained the terror of loving beyond norms. The farm's isolation, a double-edged blade that both hid and haunted. Noah listened, fingers carding through sweat-damp hair, sharing his own fractures, the autumn poems smuggled in youth, the city's freedoms that felt hollow without this anchor. Dawn brought decisions, papers signed at the lawyers in town. The farm divvied with care, Ellie retaining the house and core acres, a trust for future whims. Hunter mended final fences, literal and figurative, bidding adieu to neighbors with handshakes firm, Pastor Hale's absence a noted void, his flock whispering of schisms self-made. Ruth's silence was mercy. Her world contracted to echoes, and in that vacuum, grace flourished unchecked. Noah packed light, canvases rolled, duffel stuffed with jeans and memories, but the true baggage was emotional ballast shed layer by layer. One last ride on Ruby, the mare steady under him, Hunter beside on his own mount. They traced the fence line at twilight, the land unfurling like a farewell letter. Up here, with wind in hair and horizon endless, Noah felt the pull of roots yielding to wings. The farm's lessons etched indelible strength in solitude, love in defiance. The moving truck groaned loaded at week's end, Ellie waving from the porch, handkerchief fluttering white as surrender. Drive safe, her call carried, and Noah hugged her fierce, inhaling lavender one last time. "You call every Sunday," he promised, and she laughed wet, swatting his arm. "Go make art, baby." And trouble. Hunter loaded last, crutches stowed, his limp fading to swagger, and they rolled out, dust plume a comet tail to their exodus. Corpus welcomed with salt air and gulls' cries, the cottage a weathered charmer on a bluff overlooking the Gulf, waves crashing rhythmic below. Unpacking was chaos joyful, boxes tumbling amid laughter, Hunter's hands on Noah's waist as they hung curtains gauzy against sunsets. The first night, they dined on takeout shrimp po' on the deck, toes tangled under table, toasting to beginnings with cheap wine fizzing tart. Noah found a studio space downtown, a loft with north light flooding white, easels blooming with coastal visions, shipwrecks and sun-bleached bones. But always Hunter's form woven subtle, a hand on canvas edge, eyes in the waves curl. His first show sold out, locals drawn to the raw emotion, whispers of that new guy with the brother series, a nod to inspirations veiled. Hunter worked odd jobs at first, marina repairs honing his hands, but soon partnered in a feed co-op, his Texas grit translating seamless to coastal commerce. Challenges came gentle, not tempests, a storm surge flooding the basement, forcing couch sleeps entwined. Hunter's limp recurring in humidity, met with massages and murmurs. Ellie's visits, her adaptation to their domesticity a slow bloom, pride evident in recipes shared and quilts gifted. Holidays anchored them. Thanksgiving with turkey charred but hearts full, Christmas lights strung defiant against nor'easters. One spring evening, a year marked, they walked the beach barefoot, shells crunching underfoot, the tide pulling secrets from sand. Hunter stopped, dropping to one knee sudden, ring glinting simple gold in his palm. "Marry me, Noah." Not for papers but promise. Tears blurred, Noah's yes a sob, and they kissed with salt on lips, waves applauding roar. Wedding was small, beachside at dusk, Ellie officiating with a justice's stamp, friends from Noah's art circle mingling with Hunter's marina crew. Vows exchanged under a driftwood arch, words raw as exposed titapools. "I choose you," Hunter said, voice carrying over surf, in storms and calms. Noah echoed, rings sliding warm, and as they danced slow on sand, fireflies winking approval, the world felt vast enough for truths. Years layered like lacquer, a gallery in Galveston for Noah, a small ranchette for Hunter raising goats with coastal flair, Ellie visiting often, her stories evolving to include pride parades attended tentative then enthusiastic. Children came via surrogacy, 2 boys with Hunter's curls and Noah's green eyes, their home a cacophony of laughter and lessons in authenticity. Looking back, the farm was crucible, forging them through fire of taboo and loss, emerging tempered, luminous. Betrayal had been teacher, reactions mirrors to growth. Compassion the salve, in Ellie's grace, Harlan's unspoken nod. Freedom wasn't flight, but facing, loving loud against winds. In quiet moments, Noah sketched Hunter by the window, light etching his profile eternal, and whispered thanks to ghosts the brother who became love, the land that let them go.